No!
Yep, it's another found footage horror. Don't look at me. I don't pick the movies. The Sacrament was directed by Ty West, released in 2014, and made $9,000 and some change domestically. Apparently, it was open in a maximum of 5 theaters and kind of around the same time when Oculus was finishing their run. So the Sacrament, I guess, just came and went, and no one heard anything about anything. It follows 3 Vice journalists who went and documented a remote religious community, basically a cult, and some fucked up shit happens and they wanted to leave. It's very easy to compare this to the more recent Midsommar, which is also about a small group of people going to this religious commune and things start getting weirder and weirder for them. They're both mostly shot in daylight, and there's some singing, dancing, and drinking going on. However, the reason why Midsommar worked so much better in this case, it's because it had a strong case for its theme and it stays within its lane. See, when you're making a found footage film, it's automatically assumed that the filmmakers are going for a layer of realism. I see these films like the packaging of a box. It looks a particular way and it either holds or not its content. Just picking from the found footage films I've seen so far during the Spooktober Fest 2020, movies like the Blair Witch Project, the Poughkeepsie tapes, they understand that the found footage format is a tool to create a reality. You may get text blocks explaining the world to you, and that's all fine. I don't remember seeing the Blair Witch Project having an opening credit, though. It cuts straight to the action. Even though the Poughkeepsie tapes show you the credit up front, the movie is about mimicking a documentary you see on TV, so it's a very natural thing to have. To further this point, I want to make sure I make this argument right because it's detrimental. You only see credits for people like the director, the DP, musician, producers, and executive producers, people who would have their hands on an actual documentary. Now, let's look at The Sacrament. First 5 minutes. Not only do we see a long opening credit sequence crediting who's starring in it, what actor is playing what role, we see Eli Roth's name in it, which is a name that many audience members might recognize. On top of that, we also see who is the writer of this movie. So in the first few seconds of this thing, The Sacrament created a reality in which we're following a modern day documentary, in which the footage we see are the things that the journalists shot during this crazy adventure. Yet, in the following minute, it shatters their own very reality they just created a few seconds ago. That's the biggest logical flaw this movie has. This is of course accompanied by some super upbeat music creating this fun and exciting adventurous tone alongside some epic Danny Boyle shots. Not to mention that these people are about to witness and experience some very traumatic events. Imagine you're a viewer watching this, and let's say you just assume this is a real documentary that someone put together after finding the footage, which is what the format is all about, by the way. How is this possibly the way of setting up a story that is absolutely tragic? After that, the film does not follow with the format either, though it doesn't have any cheap scares, which is a good thing. We do get a constant musical score playing in the background to amp up the tension and suspense, especially in some of the night scenes here. At one point, they even did some auditory trick that completely crosses the line to the traditional narrative storytelling format. For example, let's just say in a traditional narrative film, a character shoots a gun in a closed space, and sometimes we get to hear the ringing in that character's ear. But in a found footage format like this, how is it possible and how does it make sense for the audience to experience something auditory with the characters if that said format is already providing a first-person experience visually? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't know what it wants to be, as it's constantly picking and choosing to be either a found footage film or a dramatic narrative film, resulting in it being too over dramatized for the former and too poorly assembled in the latter. The Sacrament does not earn the found footage format because it breaks itself apart from the get-go. It can't even get their designing principle right. This of course extends to the acting. To be clear, I don't think there's one bad performance here. I think it lies in the direction they were given and the severe lack of improvisation in this particular case, because you can tell everyone is just acting, even though they're not bad, the nuances they are doing would only work in a traditional narrative film instead of a found footage film. No one ever screws up their lines, no one ever talks over each other, the shots are always too clean and way too perfect for it to be this guerrilla style of filmmaking that it's supposed to be. Even the camera sometimes changes hands, the cinematography is always so consistent and beautiful all the time because every take is the perfect take. Many argue how this movie is slow. I don't particularly feel that much, but the first hint of something may be going wrong here happens halfway through the film, and the entire first half is just set up. I don't think the pacing is a big issue here, but I do think some of the narrative devices is. The whole reason why this film took place is because of the journalist Patrick trying to locate her sister in this commune. But the issue is we barely see him. I think there's only 2 or 3 scenes with Patrick in it, and the rest of the film we're seeing through the lens of the other 2 journalists. When the only human connection the audience can have on a narrative and emotional standpoint is stripped away and barely touched on, this film's answer for the question, why do we care, is very poor. In the entire first half of the movie, the Sacrament solely relies on the intrigue the viewers may have towards the plot, but not on the connection we have with the characters, nor their stories and arc. I don't have more to say. I didn't hate it once I finished it, but now I'm laying everything out. I think I dislike this more than I realized. I'm gonna give the Sacrament a D+.